It's time for Outdoors with Luke Clayton on your station, 88.9 KETR.
Morning, folks. It's your old buddy Luke Clayton. Thank you very much for joining me for our weekly outdoor show. We try to cover topics that are of interest to everybody. Today, we have a special guest with us, Mr. Josh. We call him Jay, his friends do, Ruby. Josh Ruby's with us, and Josh is an expert long-distance rifle shooter. Josh, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm really good. The name of your company, how about just telling us that so everybody will know who we're visiting with?
Yes, sir. My company is North Texas Rifle Precision.
And Jay, I'm going to call you Jay because I am your friend.
Yes, sir.
I know some folks call you Josh and some of us call you Jay, but I'm going to stick with Jay. Jay, the whole thing is, you know, if you're from Texas, well, by golly, you know how to shoot a rifle. I mean, that is the mindset for most people. But truthfully, you know, accurately shooting a rifle long distance, and you guys shoot them out to a mile, folks. Jay has a range set up down near Cedar Creek Lake at 7 Points, and he is an expert long-distance rifle shooter and a short distance. And I think my idea of long distance for hunting purposes is 300 yards. But, Jay, you're just getting sighted in at that distance. You really do. 1,000 yards is pretty standard for you, isn't it?
Yes, sir. 1,000 yards is fairly common. If a client has the right rifle and the right caliber, we will go back to a mile, which is 1,760 yards.
Man, or 5,280 feet, which is a long, long ways.
Yes, sir.
Now, to shoot a mile, for instance, are you going to need a Magnum caliber? Necessarily, I guess you would.
Generally, to keep a round supersonic to 1 mile, you'll have to have a Magnum, and we usually use the 300 Win Mag, putting the new Hornady 225 grain match rounds or the Hornady 208 grain rounds as well. There's other bullets that'll do it. That's just kind of standard one we're using right now.
That's good. Well, Hornady makes some awesome ammunition. I've used it for years, and it's good to know that I've never really, used the match rounds, but it's good to know that they make them. Now let's think about this, and I think this will relate to many of our listeners. Rather than shooting a mile to start with, let's start with precision shooting. Say you've got a new rifle and you've got it scoped. Kind of walk us through the basics, and we're not really thinking long distance yet, just the basics of getting it on a tight group with it and getting accurate with it. What's the first thing you want to do?
Well, the first thing we want to do is concentrate on the fundamentals. No matter how advanced shooting you're doing, it all still comes back down to the fundamentals, which is going to be your proper body position, hand position, breathing, your sight alignment, and your sight picture. What I would do with the client is to go over all of that and make sure that we're doing it the right way. We all know how to shoot, but there's ways you can refine a shooter in little tricks and stuff with hand positions, body positions, and also make sure the weapon or the rifle is actually ergonomically set up to them, because sometimes you might be straining, trying to look to the scope and so forth, and whenever you're straining or something like that, it's going to induce fatigue, which can make your groups open up.
Exactly. So maybe make sure that your eye relief to your scope is set properly. That would be a must.
Yes, sir.
And where it's comfortable for you. And then shooting positions. And you've told me that, gosh, the only formal rifle training I've had was in the Marine Corps back in the late 70s, or late 60s, I'm sorry. And in the Marines, they had a system that would accomplish what they wanted to make an acceptable marksman out of anybody. We actually spent 2 or 3 days snapping in, it's called, Jay.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm talking, that's getting in the sitting, the kneeling, the prone, and the standing position with a hasty sling we would use. But, snapping, not firing around, but learning how to squeeze and hold your sight picture. We did that a couple of 3 days before we ever fired a live round. But you were telling me that a lot of that through the last 30 years or so has been tweaked and refined to better shooting positions, better ways to grip the rifle, different little nuances like that, right?
Yes, sir. The biggest difference is when I was in the Army, and I got out in 2001, and even up until then with the prone position, they used to teach how you had the rifle cocked off to your side and your leg being up to kind of support your body. Now everything is very linear and straight behind the rifle. One, they kind of control the recoil better on the rifle, and it also eliminates the signature that you put out visually to whatever target might be looking back at you as well.
A more narrow profile, if you will.
Yes,
yes,
sir.
That makes sense. Instead of the old position that I know was more or less the best way I could describe it is sprawled out. You know, you were your arms were wide apart, your legs were, So now it's more of a in line with the rifle, I guess.
Yes, sir. It's almost just like when you're shooting a pistol and you stack your thumbs and put everything in line. You do the same thing on the rifle now.
Awesome.
You want to get everything in line.
Jay, let's say we've got our scope put on and we've got it either bore-sighted by, there's different ways, laser sights. The old deal, pull the bolt out and look down the bore and align the crosshairs. That works good. Let's say we've got it on paper at 100.
Okay.
And then it's just a simple matter of a quarter inch per click, at 100 on most 99% of some of the European scopes are a little different, I think, but most of them. And then just if you're, an inch right, well, that's 4 clicks to the left. And if you're an inch low, that's 4 clicks up.
Yes,
Here's something that has really tricked a lot of people up. If it's 4 clicks at 100 yards, most people think, okay, now then just, I know that being a professional trainer that you've learned, you've probably encountered this, but most people you say, okay, well at 50, they're going to swear that it's 8 clicks, by golly, and it is. You have to double that. But you have to think about it first, don't you?
You do, and what happens is what you're actually dialing is going to be a minute of angle.
Yes.
Which is a measurement of an arc, which grows exponentially the farther you go out, and also shrinks as it comes back to you as well. So.
It's it kind of relates to surveying in a way, Jay. 0.0208. That is the distance at 100 yards. That 1 minute of angle. If you were to turn 1 minute of angle on a transit or a angle measuring device, that would the answer is 0.0208. So that's how that's I guess when the scopes are built, that's how they're calibrated. So once we do that and you sight it in for the average guy that's going to be taking shots out to say 300 yards. Would you advise him to, if he's not going to be making adjustments with his scope, elevation adjustments, if he's going to just hunt, would you think just a little bit high at 100 would be right?
It would be, and I can actually refine that and know exactly where we should sight it in if they're on the range with me. When they select the cartridge that they're going to shoot in the specific brand of bullet, we can shoot that through a chronograph and know exactly how fast that projectile is moving. I can then take that projectile and its characteristics and also the velocity it's moving at, plug that into my ballistic computers, and we can know exactly where the bullet's going to fly and know where the best part or the best point is for us to zero that scope to where the shooter will be successful hitting the target out to 300 using that point blank zero. Maybe
a mid-range trajectory. Is that what you would be looking for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A constant distance where it would be as close, it would not deviate very far at any range out to 300. So,
correct.
If you're shooting a modern centerfire cartridge, awesome. I could, I know just the very, very rudiments of what we're talking about, Jay. And I dare say most people that don't really study it are probably in the same boat with me. But it's intriguing, especially the part of the computer programs, that, say for instance, we're shooting the Hornady 160 grain bullet. Well, once you have the speed of it and all that, and that you've got it zeroed at whatever range. You might want it at 100 or whatever you decide. And you have a scope with the capabilities of external adjusting quickly, up 25 clicks or whatever. You could compute, I'm going to assume, how many clicks it is to go if you want to shoot at 800. Is that the way it works?
That's correct, yes, sir. If you put the right information into the computers, you're going to get the right information out, and it becomes a very accurate prediction of how the projectile is going to fly, and you can normally get first-round hits out to quite a bit of distance, like 800 yards.
Well, just say, for instance, I'm going to be with you here this coming week, and we're going to be shooting. I've got Ruger sent me a brand new the Ruger Short mag. I've never shot the cartridge. I've read about it, and I know you know something about it. But if you were to sight that thing at 100 and chronographic, know the ammo, you could dial it in. Do you think? Say we're at dead on at 100 or 200, whatever the range. Will it compute? Say we want to make a shot at 700 yards. Would that be pretty accurate when you dial it in?
Yes, sir. As long as you have an optic that tracks correctly, and it's going to dial it right in.
So if the scope repeats itself correctly,
right.
and in other words, if it works right, and this is something that I highly recommend for anybody, whether you're target shooting or hunting, is buy the best optics you can. I've got a Zeiss Conquest mounted on this, and granted, it's not it's not a target scope, so to speak, but I would think out to 500 yards, or maybe 1,000, the optics and the adjustments would probably be dependable, very dependable.
Yes, sir. And even if you don't have the ability for external adjustments, I can convert the data that the ballistics programs gives into inches or feet. So if you're pretty good at eyeballing how tall something is, I can actually give you a holdover in foot and feet or inches as well. That'll help you hit the target. I've had guys do that.
Yeah, we're having a little problem. I know you're on your cell phone, maybe out at the range right now. I've got you a lot better now. I think we'll be able to hear you just fine.
Okay.
But I was losing you just for a minute there. Well, there's so much to think about now. If people want to first learn to shoot better their rifle for either hunting or for whatever reason, they can certainly go to one of your classes, and then if they want to get into the long-range match competition, well, right down there at 7 Points at your place is a good place to do it, isn't it?
Yes, sir. We're actually having our first 2-day long-range competition, October 1st and October 2nd, and we should have a lot of competitors from all over the U.S., and we're really looking forward to having a good time and banging a lot of steel. Well,
during that event, would it be okay? I mean, is it acceptable for the public to come out? Have y'all got that worked out yet? Where you could?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, we're going to have spectators out there. Normally, you don't have a whole lot because we're out in the elements and it's usually hot. But people are welcome to come check it out, see what it's all about.
Oh, it'd be awesome. Well, let's do this. Let's leave your website for somebody that might want to first go there and check out what you're all about. Let's have it first, and then a phone number where they could give you a call, Jay.
Yes, sir. It's going to be www.NorthTexasRiflePrecision.com. We're also on Facebook underneath the same name, and my phone number is 972-824-8832, and I'd appreciate and welcome any calls or questions anybody might have.
Well, I sure appreciate you being with us, Jay, and I know our conversation, with your knowledge, it probably just scratched the surface, but it also probably gave a lot of our listeners a good idea that there is a place to go. If you're having problems with your shooting, your rifle shooting, we're all, we're not really born expert rifle shooters any more than we're born expert writers or anything else. It takes practice, and it's I know this much. It's really good to have somebody that is an expert that does it all the time to get you off on the right foot. So look forward to getting you back with us, Jay, here in the near future, and maybe after we sight this Ruger in, we can have some interesting stuff to talk about, maybe some things I learned I can pass along to all of our folks listening.
That'll be great. I look forward to working with you and seeing you on the range.
You bet. Folks, I have enjoyed being with you today, and I've enjoyed having Jay with us, and I think that maybe you've learned a thing or two with us. That's what we're trying to do. I also want to remind you to go to catfishradio.com and listen to the archive of our radio show each week. Till next week, be safe in the outdoors.
Luke Clayton has been addicted to everything outdoors since his childhood. He grew up hunting and fishing in rural northeast Texas. Luke pens a weekly newspaper column that appears in over 50 newspapers. For videos, archived newspaper articles, and more information, visit catfishradio.com. This has been Outdoors with Luke Clayton on your station, 88.9 KETR.